Hi everyone, I'm so sorry to miss the book group. I'm just missing it by one day. It's disappointing. Anyway, I promise I will be there for the rest of the year. Um, Claire, thank you so much for picking this book. This wouldn't have been my choice. I would have never looked at a YA novel that was written in verse and thought I would like it as much as I do. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yes, it was a quick read, but it wasn't a frivolous read. The author is so good at creating all these different characters and finding their voices, and that's what I thought was quite an achievement. And obviously, Phoebe is the central character, but each one of them brought so much to the book. Um, it was very nuanced. Um, I thought that I thought that they were all real products of their time, and there's so many books, and obviously written on slavery and plantations and that and it's so difficult to understand how such a thing could happen. Although I guess when we look at our current history, maybe not that difficult after all. But I I've always wondered how anybody has the strength to go against something as powerful as slavery. And starting with Will, there was something in his character that was so compelling because he knew what would happen to him. He would be, that horrible phrase, peeled and pickled. He knew that that would happen to him. He knew he could be beaten to death, and it was still worth it to him to run. But where was he going to run to? It wasn't obvious to him that he would escape maybe Whitehaven and that plantation and that master. But where was it obvious that he was going to go to make a free life for himself? So he was a very compelling character. And then Shad, his little brother, um, he typified maybe that got a bit of bee flying around. He typified that type of trait that keeps someone enslaved, whether they are a slave or whether they're in a bad relationship or whatever. It is that idea that if you just do this, this is the thing that will make life better for you. Or if you don't do that, you stay out of trouble. That's the thing that will keep things happening well for you. And this was the trap that Shad fell into. The master conned him into thinking that if he behaved a certain way and did certain things, he would actually have a favored and an exalted position. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. But that led him to actually betray his own brother because he didn't particularly see freedom as the prize. He saw the master's acceptance of him and favored position as the prize. And that was very dangerous. And even his wrestle at the end of the book, when he was struggling with whether or not to shoot Master, whether or not to shoot Phoebe, wasn't clear to him. It was only when he made his final decision, because Phoebe spoke. So I think that to understand slavery is to understand Will and to understand Shad. And then Phoebe, to me, was so compelling because she didn't know until later in the book who her father was. She knew that her mother had been sold, and then she didn't speak. But obviously, Master's wife knew who Phoebe was. And she cut her face and treated her horribly and beat her. And Phoebe, in spite of that, she had every reason to be fearful because she actually had antagonism coming personally at her. It wasn't just because she was a slave, it was because it was her. She had so much to be fearful of, and yet she knew to stay quiet. She knew to listen in on Tessa's lessons, and she knew that a little knowledge would be power, even if she didn't know exactly how that power was. So to me, she was unbelievable, a young woman of 16, to have that strength. And then Tessa, Phoebe said, Tessa isn't as dumb as she looks. And obviously she had her sights, but she played the Southern Belle, but she had her sights set on Dr. Bergman. The one thing that struck me was her sneaking into Dr. Bergman's bedroom. I felt that at that time, in 1868 or whatever it was, would that have happened? Would that have happened in her station of life? She would have been a very coddled, well-brought-up young woman, probably sexually inexperienced, probably precocious, but would she have actually taken that step and gone and seduced the visitor? I'm not so sure about that. So that was the one thing when I was reading the book I thought that sort of surprised me. I thought flirtatious, yes, batting eyes, yes, cleavage, leaning in, all of those kinds of things, but visiting him in his bedroom felt like that wasn't quite how that might have happened. And then obviously her humiliation in finding out that he wasn't one bit interested in her and in fact wanted Phoebe, although she didn't know why, led her to this treachery after these 16 years of them growing up together, led her to that treachery, and her father, and this was his child, was actually willing to sell her, and at the bidding of his daughter, and sell her as a fancy girl, as a prostitute. So all of that it shocked. The tension was there so strongly reading the book, and then of course the tension at the end as they were trying to escape. Sort of knew, this is one time I forced myself not to look at the end of the book, sort of knew that they would escape, but I didn't realize that there would be that level of bloodshed along the way to get them there. Anyway, altogether a beautiful book. Totally, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will definitely try and read more of this author. I would recommend this book to anyone. So thank you. Hope you all enjoyed your evening, and I'll see you soon.